Hello, so here's an update on our daughter. There's a lot to catch up on since our last video. We were being seen at Children's National Hospital in Washington, D.C., and we're having a lot of ups and downs, a lot of frequent trips to the emergency room for bacterial overgrowth and other associated complications, enterocolitis. Um, we were trying out a method of trying to wash out the bacteria by doing a sort of an enema uh, type process. We had a large syringe that was filled with, I think we put about 40 to 60 mLs of water, and we just flushed it through her ostomy, and we're trying to see what we could flush out. Actually, everything came back out through the ostomy bag, but the idea was to try to clear out anything that was trapped in the intestine that wasn't moving through, I guess, that was collecting bacteria. Uh, and that it seemed to work at times. There was stuff that would come back out with the water. Sometimes it didn't seem to work. Um, but overall, didn't have the desired effect. We continued to have trips to the emergency room.
Even the antibiotics wasn't working well, like the cycling of antibiotics. We were struggling with that too. It wasn't really doing the job that it was doing before. So,
So to make a long story short, at one point we uh, felt like we were kind of at the end of our rope with the doctor that we were seeing, and just weren't seeing a lot of progress. Things kind of seemed to be slipping back downhill. ER visits were becoming more frequent, and so, in fact, we actually spent just about every holiday of 2019
in the
in the
hospital.
emergency room or in the hospital,
And every stay would
inpatient.
have lasted like a month or a little bit more than a month. It was long stays.
So we started looking into another hospital that we had heard does a good job with short bowel syndrome, which is University of Nebraska Medical Center. And we reached out to them. We had been in communication with them before, and or maybe this is when it started, but I guess towards the 2019 end of 2019 is probably when we started talking with them, and we finally decided it was time to go and check things out when we were released from the hospital in DC. So we made a trip over to Nebraska and had a consultation with their team, and really liked a lot of things that they said, but again had a lot of concerns. They were proposing removing her ostomy, which was mind blowing to us because she had always relied on that ostomy. She had had significant issues previously when she didn't have the ostomy with distension that was very noticeable and stuff, which is why she first had it. Um, and when we did try closing her once when she was being seen at Boston Children's Hospital, and that didn't go well. But
But at that time, she had only had a tapering and ostomy afterwards. So I think the second time that she had her ostomy was done with a step procedure, which lengthened a little bit her intestine and made it, a good size where things move more. So we were not sure if it was the step or the ostomy that really made that change, or both. So we were unsure to
yeah,
close that ostomy and see.
either way, the thought of having another surgery was kind of scary. The thought of closing the ostomy was very scary.
Hmm.
But this doctor in Nebraska had a lot of success dealing with these type of patients, or at least we had heard that. He told us the same. Um, and we talked about the possibility of our daughter having another step procedure done uh, when he opened her up to close the ostomy. And he said that was definitely a possibility. They did some imaging while we were there and found that there was, in fact, some more distension in her intestines. It looked like it had gotten bigger than it had been in the past with previous images that were done at other hospitals. And so he said it was definitely a possibility that he may do a step if he felt like it was needed when he opened her up for surgery, if we decided to go that route. And that also made it, even more of a difficult choice to make because that's a very significant surgery. She had already had it done once before, although it was under the hands of a different doctor. So there were a lot of things that made us question whether it was the right thing to do. But ultimately, we decided to go that route. We felt that we'd kind of exhausted all of our resources where we were, and we're not seeing progress. We're seeing things going the wrong direction. So we decided to go for it and take a chance on the positive things that we had heard. And it ended up being the right decision. In February of 2020, our daughter had her surgery where they closed her ostomy. Uh, this is in Nebraska. They closed her ostomy, and he did do another step procedure while she was open up. He saw that there was significant distension, more than he had expected to see, in fact. And so he did the step and had better results than on her first one as far as the lengthening. Her first step that was done in DC only lengthened,
10 centimeters
added
more.
about 10 more centimeters to her intestines, which was a lot less than we were expecting based on the amount of distension that she had had. But in Nebraska, he added, I think it was
My gosh.
about
It
a
was,
50 or 100
yeah,
centimeters,
it was a
quite
lot.
a bit. Yeah, I don't remember how much it was, but it was significant. And but the important thing the doctor said was with this procedure, he says that the length isn't the important part. The important part is getting the um,
Dilation.
yeah, getting the dilation down, having consistency in the diameter throughout the length of the intestine. And he said that he felt that that went well. Um, and as it turns out, he said that after within a couple weeks she should start stooling again, which she had not been doing
Even with an ostomy, like,
before with an
yeah.
ostomy. She would for a few days, and then things would slowly start getting
Mhm.
stopped up, and that always ended up being a result of what was going on inside of her, which it seems that the distension was a big part of that. Things would start pooling up inside of her and would stop coming out the bottom where they're supposed to. But anyways, sure enough, after a couple weeks or less time, she started stooling. And when it first started, it was very dark and watery, but it just kind of slowly started thickening up over time.
The other thing that I wanted to point out was he also said, because all this time we were told that our daughter struggled with this motility, and it was like she was always going to be dysmotile. And when he went in and opened her up, he said he flicked on the intestine and it moved. So he was like, she's not dysmotile. It moves. It has motility. That her problem was a dilation that made it dysmotile. That section that was dilated, but it wasn't because it couldn't really move. You just needed the right diameter, yes, for it to move. So that was surprise. That was news to us, to me, um, because I was with the impression that it didn't really move even after doing the tapering and whatever. The first step, it wasn't moving, right? And that's why we were taking motility medications and things like that. And so it was mind blowing to learn that it actually have movement, that section. So yeah.
So the results have been amazing. Um, like I said, everything was moving fine. She started stooling just like he said, which was a great relief to us
With no medications.
because we weren't sure if
Yeah.
things were going to move on their own without the ostomy. But yeah, things started moving. It's been 17 months since her surgery. Uh, we're just a month shy of a year and a half. And since the surgery was done, she's had no need for antibiotics, which we used antibiotics a lot to help with motility.
Before,
Augmentin was the big
yeah, when she was,
medication that she used daily.
yeah, it was daily.
And then there was a monthly change in other antibiotics to keep away the
Bacterial
bacteria.
overgrowth. Hmm.
But she's had no medications needed since then. She continues to get vitamin supplements, calcium, vitamin D, B12,
Multivitamin.
multivitamins,
Hmm.
but no medications for anything. And
It was mind blowing
that's the biggest
because
thing. We've not had to make a single trip to the emergency room in the past year and a half. And she's continued to stay off of TPN. So it's been a life-altering experience for her and for us because it gave us a great deal of our life back. We don't have to spend all of our days uh, making up medications and administering medications and running to the ER and spending our holidays in the hospital. So it's been great. And our daughter has a lot more freedom to do things that she wants to do because she's not tied down with tubes and stuff. So she does still get tube feeds through her G tube. That's mostly done at night. We start her up at around 6, 7 p.m. and it runs throughout the night while she's sleeping. We disconnect it usually around 10 or 11 in the morning, I think.
9,
Depending
10,
on
depending on.
when we
So
connect
it's like
her.
16 hours that we do.
16
So
hours
16 hours.
continuous overnight
Yeah.
feeds. But that gives her most of the day in the daytime to do whatever she wants.
Mhm.
She has come with us on trips to the beach, to the pool, and just doing just about everything else that a normal kid can do.
And now we are working with her with feeding therapy, which she's more open to put things in her mouth and stuff. But it's a process; it doesn't happen overnight. So she's eating. She does eat 3 times a day, puree type of foods, but it's not sufficient to sustain her. So that's why she needs the G2 feeds. But we're hopeful that once she learns how to eat and we can lower the G2 feeding, and she is gaining weight just fine, growing. So absorption wise, it's great. Um, so yeah, we're just very surprised. And she goes, number two, once a day at least, and it's solid. It's not liquid like before. It doesn't burn her bottom. It doesn't. It's like a
She's like a normal kid.
normal kid, which was also mind blowing. I mean, we could not believe that was happening.
Yeah.
And it took her about 4 months after the surgery to come off TPN, and then 6 months, I think, to take out the line. I think it was something like that. Um, so it's just been mind blowing, and
And that was out of an
yeah,
abundance of caution.
yeah.
We kept things in place for a little while just to make sure that she didn't slip backwards as she had done so many times in the past. So it could have come out sooner, but we kept it there, to make sure that things were going well. And they did. She's never gone backwards since her surgery. Yeah. So the oral feeds are slow progress, but she is making progress. We've recently started her on feeding therapy, which seems to be adding to her progress as well. Um, Before this last surgery, she pretty much never ate anything by mouth. It was very rare. But now she eats every day, and she's slowly opening up to being willing to try new foods. So it's a very slow process, but definitely heading in the right direction now.
No more vomiting. Before this, even though she had an ostomy and everything before, we had problems with vomiting. Um, Now it's no more vomiting at all. I mean, she does gag here and there when we feed her by mouth too fast. She does get that reflex of the gag, um, but mm, no vomiting like before.
Yeah, and her response, it's she actually coughs
Yeah, it's
more
not.
so than a
Yeah,
gag. I mean, we say that she gags, but she really
yeah.
coughs. It seems to be a reflex type of response. We don't quite understand it, but she coughs when
Yeah.
we're feeding her.
Too fast. If
If we
we
feed her
feed
too
her
fast,
slow, she's fine.
yeah. But and that's the only thing.
Hmm.
Um, she seems to handle things pretty well. We're you know trying to see what we can do about the coughing. It seems that um, it's something that she'll grow out of over time, I guess. I don't know. We're kind of thrown off by that one.
Yeah, I mean,
But
there's always a fear of redilation, right? I mean, it's not a sure thing. I mean, we're hopeful that it doesn't. The doctor is very confident that it won't, and thinks that she will just be normal like any other kid. And he's like the first doctor that have told us that she had more intestine than any other kid he has seen, and that she would do great, just fine. He had no concerns, no worries, which was amazing too because we have been around top hospitals and
yeah, I think
never heard of that.
when the surgery was done, she went in with about 65 or 75 centimeters
Mhm.
of intestine, and when he was done, she came out with 150. So he pretty much doubled the length of her intestine. Um,
Mhm.
and again, the shape of it, the circumference was consistent throughout, and the results have just been miraculous, really
Mhm.
amazing. We couldn't be happier with
Mhm.
the results. So, um,
So if you're dealing with dilation or any shortcut related issue, highly recommend University of Nebraska Medical Center. Um, there have been amazing. This is an amazing team. I mean, and it was so worth the travel. We live in Virginia, so and at that time we were hitting by COVID and everything, so we had to drive. We were not taking a plane, so it was 19 hours right over there. But it's wonderful. They have Ronald McDonald
Ronald
Home,
McDonald House.
so you don't really have to pay that much for to stay. It's right there, right next to the hospital. They have a shuttle van. They provide you with meals sometimes, and they are just so they're just a second family almost.
I would say for anyone that is considering a step procedure, serial transverse enteroplasty, also known as STEP, we've heard a lot of horror stories, which is another reason why we were very
Hesitant
hesitant to
to
do
do that.
this, especially since it was her second one. Um, but from everything that we've gathered, it seems that the results from the surgery depends a lot on the surgeon, and there aren't a lot that seem to be very successful at it. So I would highly recommend University of Nebraska if you're considering having the step procedure done. Um, there may be a few other places that I think have some success, but I wouldn't trust my daughter with anyone else at this point for having that type of a surgery done.
Mhm.
Dr. Mercer at University of Nebraska is wonderful. He's got a lot of experience doing it and has had a lot of success doing those types of procedures. He also does transplants and has been very successful in his transplants, but that's not the direction that we've had to go. We're fortunate not to have gone that far, but he's very good at what he does. So, and I would recommend anyone considering the step procedure be very selective of the surgeon that you choose
Mm-hmm.
because they're not all as experienced, and
It's a fairly
it's
new
important to do that.
procedure, and it's, yeah, many hospitals even don't like doing it. So, but some kids, they knew they do need a surgery. I seen other kids, when they don't do a surgery, they're stuck on TPN for a long, long time. They're still stuck. So some parents are okay with that, which is, it's a personal, in our what's it called? What we wanted.
Philosophy.
Yeah, that was our goal. No TPN, not even omega bank, nothing, right? Um, but it's up to you what you are looking for, right? So we're just very grateful and thankful that there is um, a hospital, a team, and they work very well as a team, very well. All of them, they've just been amazing. The nutritionist, the GI, the surgeon, they all work together, which that makes a difference. And the communication is good, even though we are far away. We still communicate via email. Sometimes we have to do lab work, and we just go to LabCorp or whatever, take the blood, and they examine it. And if they tell us if she's low on vitamin D or whatever. So we're just so very happy. And now we travel once a year to see them, just a regular checkup. Um, so yeah, I mean, we're hopeful that she continues with her progress, and of course, there's always you know things that could happen in the future. We don't know that, but we're just enjoying the time, and just to have this time with no TPN, no central line, has been amazing and so worth it. So highly recommend them. And that's it. That's our update. If you have any questions, any comments, just leave them down below. We'll try to answer them. Um, so